Hello and welcome to another Literacy Ready training refresher. This training refresher is for English Unit 1, Lesson 4, and it focuses on annotation. In this activity, students will learn to annotate, and they will use their annotations to complete a reading log for CARS Chapter 4. Prior to this activity, you've already done some work with annotation. So you and your students have practiced a very simple form of annotation on the interview with Clifford Nass. You've also learned a specific and concise form of summarizing through the rhetorical précis, and you've completed reading logs for chapters 1 through 3. So what we're doing here then is building on the simple form of annotation that students have already practiced, and we're going to be doing a bit more with annotation, using it actually to write some summary and synthesis. So annotation is a note-taking strategy that goes across all of the units in the Literacy Ready course. And we think it's a good idea because it makes it easy to find important information in a text quickly. It helps students stay engaged with what's being presented in the text. It makes reading a little bit more of an active process, and it can help students begin the process of tracing the ideas in the text. So this is basically what's going to happen in this activity. The teacher is going to explain and model annotation. Students practice with a partner and then share out to the whole class the annotations that they've made. And then the teacher models the use of annotations to answer questions in the reading log. After that, students complete reading of Chapter 4 and annotating it, and then use their annotations to complete their reading log for Chapter 4. So we've already created a sample teacher modeling of annotation for our iTunes U student course. We've uploaded that into the iTunes U training refresher course so that you can see what a teacher modeling annotation might do. If you'd like, you can use that teacher modeling with your students. That's up to you, or you can just view it and then do your own modeling with your own students. As I said, once the teacher models the annotation, then the students are going to do some practice, share out with the whole class, and then the next step for the teacher to model how to use the annotation to answer the questions in the reading log. So here's what the first question in the reading log looks like. It's for Chapter 4, the deepening page, and the first question says, in the space below, trace the history of the book. So if students have read from pages 58 to 67 and done annotations along the way, then we can use this space to model for students how to begin writing an answer to this question using the annotations that they've already collected. So here's what that might look like. This is not a complete tracing of the history of the book. It's just the first few pages. So I've written here, writing technologies have progressed from scratch marks on natural products to cuneiform on clay tablets to scrolls made from papyrus. Because papyrus scrolls were expensive, people started using wax tablets. Now there's more in this section about the impact of the oral form of language on the way words and sentences looked in written texts, and then the transfer from wax tablets to actual books. There's a lot more here, but I thought I'd give you a start on writing or modeling for students. So basically what you're asking them to do when they're taking their annotations and using them to answer this question is to go from their words and phrases that are written in the margin to creating whole sentences and eventually paragraphs that will summarize the content. And that's really what we're doing here. So eventually, when students have completed their annotations of Chapter 4 and the reading log, then the next activity asks students to look back at the annotations that they made for Chapter 4 and their reading log for Chapter 4 for concepts or evidence that might support this quote. And this is a quote taken from Carr. As our ancestors imbued their minds with the discipline to follow a line of argument or narrative through a succession of printed pages, they became more contemplative, reflective, and imaginative. So Carr has a particular claim he's making there, that the discipline to read an extended piece of text makes us more contemplative, more reflective, more imaginative. There's a good bit of evidence in Chapter 4 to support this argument. So in Activity 4, which is the next one following this one, you're going to go back into the text and ask students to find evidence for this quote.